Okay. Hello, I'm Andreia Santos, and I'm here with George Siemens in Pretoria, South Africa. Hello, George.
Hi,
Thanks for agreeing, giving us this interview. Could you please tell us a little bit about what you do to start with?
Sure. Well, I'm George Siemens, as I guess you're aware, and I'm with Athabasca University. I'm a faculty member in the Center for Distance Education, and I'm also involved in research through the Technology Enhanced Knowledge Research Institute at the university as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And George, can you please tell us about the creation of the concept of MOOCs, Massive Open Online Courses?
Sure. Well, actually it started, I was at the University of Manitoba at the time, and one of the things that we were exploring at the university is, what is the difference between the teaching component of education versus the content component? And by that time already, there were quite a few initiatives by numerous universities to open up content. And this was in 2008, and so we were thinking, and I was working with Stephen Downs, and it was like, well, what if we started teaching? We did for teaching what MIT did for content. And so we decided with a course that was on connectivism and connective knowledge. And so our goal was to have others experience this notion of distributed social network learning. And we had the course as part of a certificate program in emerging technologies. And we had our full limit of students that were registered for credit students, but we decided, well, let's take the entire course, the content, and teach everything online. And we had about 2,300 students that joined in. And that's where the term Massive Open Online Courses was coined, to sort of allude to emphasize that this is a huge course, it's done online, there's no criteria or prerequisites for people to join.
Oh, fantastic. So it's been 4 years now that you've been offering MOOCs.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. So how many MOOCs have you offered so far? An idea?
I would say it's probably been about a dozen, and they've been in different topic areas.
Right.
The connectivism course I've done about 4 times now. I've also done courses on emerging technologies. I've done several on learning analytics, because that's an area of growing interest. I've been involved on openness in education, as well as education futures. We did one on personal learning environments and networks, and I think that might be about it. So altogether, it's been about a dozen different offerings of courses. The largest number that we had was one we did last year, the Change MOOC, which actually ran over a period of just under a year, I should say. And we had 37 weeks in total. So we've taken different formats. We've run some that have been very short, only about 4 to 6 weeks, and we've run some that have been much longer, ongoing. So with each issue, or each time we run one of these courses, we try to look at what are different ways of experimenting. We've experimented with the duration of content. We've experimented with a lot of guest speakers. We've experimented with different kinds of content formats versus different kinds of learner creation formats. So we're always trying to play with a different model, or take what we did previously and try and fix some of the errors that we noticed arising.
Oh, fantastic. And what would you say is the relationship between MOOC course and open educational resources and open education?
Well, it depends how they're run. I think in our cases, we try to use open education resources exclusively for the courses. We want people to be able to access all the readings and all the videos. So what we've done is we have a heavy emphasis with open education resources and the open education movement. But there have been more recently open online courses that have been run by larger university systems, in particular the system of Stanford with the Coursera project, and it's now got well over a dozen universities involved. Then there's the Udacity initiative, which is also an open online course as well. And then there's the new one coming up with edX, which is Harvard and MIT. I would say that the model that we've run is more closely affiliated with the open education resources, because we emphasize openness, we emphasize users creating their own content and sharing it freely with others. But we have had other issues like Coursera where they don't necessarily make the content freely available. They don't necessarily allow it to be repurposed by others or remixed. So I think there's less of a relationship with those new emerging, the huge elite university open courses, then the less of an affinity with the open education movement with those systems.
Okay, I see. And what would be the advice you would give for someone wanting to create and run a MOOC?
Well, it's a great question. I think probably the biggest thing to do is to just try it. I mean, you know, yes, there's a lot of design work and a lot of activity that needs to go into running it, but the best way to learn what needs to be done is to run one. And so I encourage, you know, take a step back and look at it. What's a topic area that you're passionate about as an instructor? Because you'll find that it takes quite a bit of time and effort to run your first open online course. So look at something that you're passionate about. Then see if you can involve a few other colleagues. You know, maybe you have people in different systems, different universities, or even in different countries, and see if you can bring them into helping you run the course. Think carefully about the relationship between content and versus the curriculum that you're using, as well as guest speakers and other people that you want to bring in. Namely, are there, let's say, keynote speakers that you can bring in to run a session one week? So look at how you can augment the experience by bringing other people in. Another aspect I'd really emphasize is look at what you want students to be able to do and create. We've emphasized that a big part of the course are the skills that students develop in teaching and in running the course. So what I mean is we want them to engage with others in discussion, we want them to create their own content, we want them to share that content and to connect with others. So our emphasis with open courses is getting students to be connected to one another, not just being connected to the instructor and the course content. So I'd certainly emphasize that. I'd encourage that the faculty member thinks about how are they going to provide support. You know, learner support. Are you going to emphasize learners helping each other, or is a big part of the course going to be you spending all hours of the night trying to respond to learner emails or learner questions? Another thing I'd emphasize is expectations. You know, some people have been fortunate to get large numbers of students, but I've also seen courses where they've had closer to 100 students, and I think that's a great start. So you don't have to have 3,000 or 100,000 students for it to be successful. So think about what's important for you. Is it a topic that's important for others to know about? Can you allocate the time to design it well, bring in guest speakers? Can you provide support for students or encourage student support? Are you going to be able to assess it, or how are you going to assess it? So these are all different questions that you ask as you start. And also as you begin the open course, make sure you emphasize to students that things will change. If students are used to a course where everything is fully planned and fully designed before they arrive, then help them sort of understand that that's not necessarily the way it's going to go. What happens early on in the course, the first few weeks, will help the instructor design what's going to happen later on in the course. So, encourage students to recognize that it's an experience that's going to change and evolve as the course develops.
Oh, that sounds great. Really exciting. Okay, and so what would you say, just as a final question, are the main benefits, both for the teacher and for the learner, to take a MOOC?
There's certainly many for both. I think for the teacher to offer one is probably the biggest thing I've found is I learn a lot. It's a great learning experience for me personally. It's a great opportunity to connect with students, to connect with other colleagues from different parts of the world. So I think the learning experience for myself is one of the biggest motivators. For the students, I think a big opportunity is similar, that they get a chance to learn from someone about a topic that individual is passionate about. But the biggest benefit that I've encountered is that students get to build very rich learning networks themselves. So they learn to connect with a lot of other students and really learn what it's like to be a participant in a digital network world. So I'd say for both the teacher and the student, the primary benefit is the learning experience and the ability to form some very strong connections. And even now I find students that took the first course that we did in 2008, I still see students who first connected there are interacting with one another on Skype or on Twitter or other tools regularly. In some cases, one of the group of students that took the course with us, they eventually ended up publishing a few peer-review articles together as a group, and another group I know started teaching their own course as well. So I think those are probably the biggest benefits, is just the opportunity to experience, what's learning like when it's network driven, when we're using a variety of different technologies, when students and educators really exhibit their creativity more so than a regular structured classroom allows.
Excellent. Well, that's it from me, George. Is anything else you'd like to add or any message you'd like to give?
I think just encourage educators from other parts of the world to take and offer these kinds of courses. Most of the ones I've been involved with now have been sort of North American or Canadian, U.S. or European focused. I think it would be great to see these kinds of courses offered in Latin American countries, to be offered in African countries, and to bring other people into it. So you don't want education to just be something that you're importing. You also want to export from your own country's different values and different attitudes. So I think that would probably be one of the strongest things to encourage people in the open education movement, is to start offering open courses wherever you are from your perspective, from your part of the world.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, George.
Thanks.
Okay, cheers.